But before we start, let me, as a moderator, introduce our member. So the first one is Busafrian Yusuf for the first speaker. The second one is Eka Audia Tiasa, and the last presenter will be me, Adar Indonesia. So without further ado, let's move to the next slide, which will be hello test. So these are the table of contents that will be our our topic, and we start with Ibu Safrian Yusuf for the first speaker. The screen is yours.
Ibu Eka Audia Tiasa will go first for the first slide, Pak Ede.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So the first speaker will be Eka Audiatyas. The screen is yours.
Okay, thank you for thank you moderator for giving me this opportunity. So here, let me explain the first term is about the introduction in assessing grammar. Okay, so in this term, there are several terms in introduction. Start from the importance of grammar in language use and education. So, the significance of grammar in language use and education is multifaceted. It serves as the structural backbone of the languages, often described as the glue that binds it together. Grammar is crucial for successful communication, whether through speaking, listening, writing, or reading. It's important that has been recognized for the countries from the Middle Age through to contemporary educational practices. Sure, in language education, grammar has traditionally that has been as the key element of languages. It was once assumed that understanding a language grammatical rules was enough for learners to master the languages. However, this view has evolved with modern perspective now focusing on applying grammar in real world communication rather than simply memorizing the rules of the grammar itself. The way grammar knowledge is assessed that has also changed over time. In the past, assessment often involved the rule memorization or text translation. Today, the evaluation method focus on tasks that require students to demonstrate their understanding and practical use of the grammar in everyday communication. So this shift reflects a deeper understanding about the grammar as a crucial aspect of communicative competence. So, grammar plays a crucial role in language use and education. It forms the foundation of effective communication, guides the teaching method, and influences assessment practices. All of it which contribute to learners' linguistic skills and confidence in using a second languages. The next term is about the historical context of grammar teaching and assessment. So, the historical development of grammar instruction and evaluation has undergone significant change over the centuries. In the early phases of language education, particularly with the grammar translation method, the emphasis was on the memorizing the rules and translating the text. In the early phases of language education, Particularly with the grammar translation method, the emphasis was on memorizing the rules and translating the text. This approach dominated language teaching for a long period, reinforcing the notion that proficiency in a language means knowing its grammatical rules. Consequently, the assessments were closely aligned with this teaching method, often requiring the students to recall the rules or translate the sentences. Actually, this based on my experience when I was a student, start from the elementary school until senior high school. This method, called grammar translation method, always used start from in my English subject at school. My teacher always instruct us to memorize the grammar rules itself, or may I always call it formula in grammar. So yeah, based on that, we only memorizing uh, what is the forms of the past tense, simple past tense, present, and so on. So, however, by the late 20th century, this traditional perspective began to be questioned. Educators began to acknowledge that language learning should not be limited to grammatical structure, but should also encompass the ability to use the language for the communication. The history of grammar teaching and assessment demonstrates a shift for an exclusive focus on grammatical rules to more balanced understanding that passes the use of the grammar in communication. Okay, the next subtopic is about the evolving notions of the grammar. For the first is traditional views of grammar as a set of rules. So historically, the traditional views of grammar have treated it as a collection of perspective rules that dictate the structure and usage of the languages. This perspective focuses on analyzing the language system, where grammar is seen as a systematic framework to explain and predict how an ideal speaker or listener will use the languages. For example, traditional grammar typically outlines the explicit rules for sentence structure, for conjugation, and other grammatical form. Um, Additionally, the traditional grammar has often been associated with teaching methods that prioritize the memorization and recite, recitation of the rules, which frequently results in a focus on grammatical accuracy rather than communicative competence. The next is about shift towards understanding grammar in context. So the shift towards understanding grammar in context emphasize the need for a more integrated approach to the languages. This perspective views that grammar is a tool for conveying meaning and facilitating the interaction. It emphasizes the relationship between grammatical structure and pragmatic factors such as the speaker's intent, the social context, and also the dynamic between conversational patterns. Additionally, this shift promote the creation of assessment that reflect authentic language use, moving away from traditional testing method that might fail to capture a learner's true grammatical proficiencies. Assessment should not only measure a grammatical accuracy, but also assess the how well students can apply their grammatical knowledge in practical ways. The next is about the role of grammar in communicative competence. So, grammar plays a crucial and multifaceted role in communicative competence, serving as an essential element for effective language use. For the first role is grammar enable speakers to convey their thought and intention with precision. A strong grasp of grammatical rules allows individuals to manipulate the sentence structure, the verb, tenses, and other linguistic elements to articulate their ideas clearly. And for the second, grammar work alongside pragmatic knowledge, which involves the understanding the social context and the language nuance. For the next topic is about the theoretical framework for grammar assessment. The first is an overview of different theoretical approaches to grammar. So an overview of various theoretical approaches to grammar highlight the different paradigms that have influenced the understanding and instruction of grammar in second language acquisition. There are several terms. The first is about the traditional grammar. Traditional grammar emphasizes about the structural rules of language, prioritizing the memorization of grammatical rules and definition. As what I said before is like the formula that talk about the tenses. The next is the universal grammar. Universal grammar um, refers to the language acquisition is in innate the human ability that all the language share a fundamental structural framework. For the next is functional grammar. This refers to the communicative rule of grammar, emphasizing how grammatical structure serve the specific function in language used. The next is pragmatic approaches. Approaches refers to the importance of the context in language use, focusing on meaning and speaker intent. The next is the cognitive approaches. So this refers to explore the mental processes involved in acquiring and processing the grammatical knowledge itself. So they examine how learners understand and apply grammatical structure by making sense of forms and meaning through the cognitive development. The next is sociocultural theories. It refers to the role of the social interaction in language learning, suggesting that grammar is acquired through collaboration and engagement with others. The next is importance of defining grammatical ability. So, clearly defining grammatical ability is essential for both the language assessment and instruction, as it establishes a foundation for understanding what constitutes grammatical knowledge. As language education increasingly emphasizes the practical application of grammar in communication rather than just rule memorization, assessment must reflect this shift. Defining grammatical ability is the key to designing valid, reliable, and meaningful assessment that not only evaluate the knowledge, but also enhance the teaching and the learning outcomes. The next is the relationship between grammar and pragmatic knowledge. So the relationship between grammar and pragmatic knowledge it is essential for developing the communicative competence. A well-rounded approach to language assessment should recognize this connection, ensuring that both grammatical correctness and contextual appropriateness. So, the relationship between grammar and pragmatic knowledge is essential for developing the communicative competence. A well rounded approach to language assessment should recognize this connection, ensuring that both grammatical correctness and contextual appropriateness are evaluated. They provide a more comprehensive understanding of a learner's language proficiencies. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thanks for your nice attention. I give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the great explanation. We move to the next speaker that will be Musafian Yusuf. Are you there?
Thank you very much. My audio.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, let's coming up with the current assessments practices in grammar. Um, let me see the slide. Hold on. The first is okay. Critique of traditional grammar assessments method. I'm going to go a little bit brief. Criticism. Criticism of traditional grammar assessments methods primarily centers on their heavy reliance on structural linguistics and discrete point measurements, which have long been dominant in the field. These conventional approaches often emphasize memorizing grammar rules, analyzing language structures, and completing translations exercises, as Audi already explained before. So, the traditionals, the conventionals one tend to separate the grammar from its practical use in communications. This disconnect between instructions and evaluations fails to account for the complexity of the language in real world interactions. So, the discrete point measurements, the language assessments method evaluates the specific isolated aspect language, such as grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciations, rather than assessing language use in broader or contextual manner. This shifts into a structural linguistics perspective, significantly in this part. The linguists significantly influence grammar assessments. It stresses the importance of broadening of this perspective to include functional and pragmatic dimensions. Next slide, please. No, the okay. I go back. No, the designing. Can you go back with okay, the designing effective grammar assessments. Um, First is the authenticity. Assessments should reflect real life language use by incorporating tasks that students are likely to encounter beyond the classroom, like emails or conversations. The next is communicative emphasizes, focus on practical grammar use in communications. In The next is diverse task formats, a well-rounded a well-rounded assessments incorporate various task types to measure different aspects of grammatical competence, such as multiple choice questions, essays, or presentations, to cover various grammatical skills and other aspects of grammatical competence. The next is constructive feedback. Assessments should provide meaningful feedback that helps learners develop their grammatical skills instead of merely pointing out mistakes. Feedback should highlight the strengths and other specific suggestions for improvements. Uh, these should be integrated with other language skills such as listening, speaking, reading, and writing to provide a comprehensive understanding of the learner proficiency. Next, next slide. Uh, Challenge. Go back with the challenge, please. I forgot. Yeah. Challenges in grammar assessments. The first is lack of consensus of grammatical knowledge. It caused because of several factors. That is different perspective on grammar, different educational systems and linguistic theories interpret grammar differently, leading to variability in assessments, prioritize and inconsistency in test design. It caused because it happened because various educational systems, linguistic theories and teaching methods interpret grammar differently. So some considers it is a fixed set of rules to be memorized and applied, while others view it as a flexible systems that evolves with the language used. Um, and also variability in assessments priorities that affect test design, educational consequences, and the need for a balanced approach. Uh, the difficulties in measuring implicit knowledge, influenced by the nature of the implicit knowledge, refer to the unconscious, automatic understandings and use of grammatical use. So it is different from explicit, which is conscious awareness and ability to articulate grammatical rules, because implicit knowledge operates below the level of conscious awareness. It's inherently difficult to measure directly. So it's prioritizing a meaning over accuracy with activities like role plays and group projects. And also there is the debate in grammar instructions. Uh, Ongoing discussion on explicit versus implicit instructions of the focus on form or meaning, or isolated or integrated grammar teaching impact how grammar is taught and assessed. Um, the next one is about balancing accuracy and fluency. In balancing accuracy and fluency, striking the right balance between evaluating grammatical correctness and communicative fluency remains on an ongoing challenge, with traditional and performance-based assessments each having their strength. I think that's from the challenge in grammar assessments, and next will be explained by Ade. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so we move to the next topic, which will be the future directions for grammar assessment. So the future direction for the grammar assessment actually consists of a lot of things, especially for future, for the researcher, and also for the tester. But on the slide, we will brief them into the three. And the first one is practical application. So creating a task that simulate authentic communication scenarios such as writing emails, participating in conversation, or giving a presentation. And the second one will be balanced approach. It is incorporate both explicit and implicit instruction for comprehensive assessment, ensuring learners understand rules and apply them in meaningful contexts. And the last one is the implication for teacher and testers, which is encourage balanced instruction as an assessment, focus on communicative competence, create authentic tasks, provide clear and transparent criteria, offering constructive feedback, and engage in continuous professional development, and also consider the cultural and linguistic sensitivity. I think that's all for the future direction for the grammar assessment. We move to the last slide, which will be the conclusion of our topic today. So, by seeing all of the topic before, we can say that educators must embrace a comprehensive approach to grammar assessment that balance grammatical accuracy and meaningful language use. Assessments should integrate both explicit and implicit knowledge, reflecting the real-world application through authentic tasks, leveraging technology, enhances accessibility, and provides immediate feedback while formatting assessment offer continuous improvement and opportunities. Also, uh, also a collaboration between researchers and practitioners bridges the gap between theory and practice. So we have to ensure that the assessments are effective, relevant, and prepared for students and for the practical language to use beyond the classroom. I think that's all of our presentation today for the three speakers of Group 6. Thank you for the opportunity. We move to the next, um, which will be the question and answer. Thank you very much. So I think that there will be two questions. Is there anybody want to give a question for our our material? Oke, Ibu Mulyati Ramani.
Ya, thank you so much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Welcome.
Uh, first of all, I would like to say Syafakillah for Sir Latifah. Hopefully you are getting well. And um, thank you so much for your great explanation, Group 6. Um, as the first presenter explains about the different theoretical approaches to grammar. I highlight the second approach, that is universal grammar. If I'm not mistaken, introduced by Noam Chomsky. My question is how this approach affects um, the second language acquisition. And the second, let me know about your perspectives um, as a teacher or as a student, uh, because uh, some weeks ago, I mean, maybe 2 weeks ago, I conducted initial observation in a university in Makassar, and I found out that the lecturer um, told me that this lecturer doesn't teach grammar to the students. Uh, what about your what is your perspective about it? Because if I'm not mistaken, one of the expert uh, say that uh, it's not only fluency but accuracy. It's also important in written or spoken text. Okay, do you get all my questions? Group 6. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I think there will be a second question from Ibu Marwa Yuni.
Okay, thank you so much for the sixth group presenting assessing grammar very well. I'm curious about how can teacher provide effective feedback for grammatical error without demotivate them from speaking and writing. Based on your experience, if you don't mind to share, I'll glad to hear your experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think we will take around minutes to answer the questions.
Tabe, moderator, can I go with the second question because it's asked about personal experience from Ibu Marwah Wahyuni about how to give a feedback without the motivated students. Is that correct, Bu Marwah? Either in written or spoken, yeah.
without demotivating you.
Without being without having the student being demotivated in learning English. Um, Based on my experience teaching English, Bu Marwa, it depends. Yeah, if you teach a younger young learners, it make it easier to giving them a feedback by making it in the classroom. Yeah, when I teach, I'm making it as a whole students make mistake the same mistakes. So one students make mistakes in the grammar, but I make it as a whole student. So I explain it in the classroom. So this is what we did today. So do not specifically point out to the student's person or to the student's name. Do not mention the name. Just make it as all of us makes mistakes in this grammar thing. So I jot it down and I on the board, and then this is how we said. This is how we do it, and then after that, I ask my students to take a look on your notes, take a look on your books. Did we? If you already write it down correctly, then it's okay. But if it is not, then you make it. You make it. You can make it right. Things like that. And also, if some students make a rather bigger mistakes in grammar, um, do not give your feedback right in front of their friends or in front of the classrooms. You I What I did is I call my students and then along with the books, and I saw him. So it's gonna be like face to face a meeting with him right there in the classroom, right in the corner in the classroom. I told him or her, you shall this is what we said in English. This is not what we said in English. This is what you said in Bahasa, but in English we say like this. We didn't write like that in English, but we write that in Bahasa. So do not say the person is wrong. It's just said in English we don't say like that. In Bahasa we say like this, but in English we don't say like that. Yeah, things like that. So do not personally point out to students, and do not embarrass them right there in front of their friends, because once again, English we cannot say second language for our country. It's maybe like the third language, because Bahasa Indonesia is our second language. I think, yeah. I hope that answer your question, Ibu Marwah. But if some other friends would like to share their experience, it's also welcome.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
want to add the Ibu Nano
Yes.
answer, please.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, actually, I really agree with the Miss Nano talk about the feedback, because for me also as a teacher, um, because I'm in elementary school and I know my students start from the first class into the sixth class, didn't uh, doesn't have a same ability to master about the English itself, especially about the grammar. So for me, especially in sixth grade, I start from the first semester. The materials is focused into the simple past, but I think that these materials actually this um doesn't match to their um, uh, doesn't match with their acknowledgement, because they're still the elementary school, they still learn about the vocabulary. So my way to learn them is not uh, give them the task to memorizing the rules, but I start with the uh, give the information that you should memorize the vocabulary first. May first, the first item, I explain what is simple past. And after that, I do not explain the formula of simple past is subject plus blah, 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 plus blah, blah, blah. No, but I say that the main point of the simple past is the verb one have to change to the verb two. So you have to memorize it. That there is not nothing way to give to memorize. There is nothing ways to master without memorizing. Yeah, you should be. And after that, I explain about the adverb of time. So in simple past, you have to memorize that the adverb of time in past tense is yes, such as yesterday and last week, last month, and so on. And after that, by in the process, yeah, they can imagine, they can remember. Okay, Miss said that the simple past is start from the subject. Subject also they know about the subject because okay, I know the subject because start from the first meeting, I explained the subject in English, blah blah blah. And oh yeah, subject. And then after that, we should add the verb to and understand it will complete with the adverb of time. So based on that, in automatically they're not memorizing about the form of the simple past tense, but they learn one by one the item of the simple past. May start from the subject and then change the verb to and then complete it with the adverb of time. So based on that, may several students still give mistake and error, but yeah, I still make a suggestion. I will um told that you fools, you have to use this and blah blah. Okay, so I think that's all based on my experience. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for the answer from both Bu Sapriani and Eka Audia. For Bu Marwa, is it clear for the answer?
Okay, thank you very much for answering my question. I really glad to hear your experience, Ibu Safriani and Sis Audia. I can conclude that based on Ibu Safriani's experience, effective feedback for the younger learners it should be personal feedback. Don't give feedback, especially for children, in front of their friends. It's better if they are given feedback personally. Am I correct?
Yes.
And uh, for the explanation from Cecilia, the effective feedback based on her experience is the topic should be understandable first before memorizing. And can I add the question, Ibu Safriani and Sis Audia Tiasa, is there any student who has a special need in the school that you go to teach?
um, Ibu Mara, kalau if from our schools, even if we have special needs students, it has accompanied with
Oh yeah.
say the teachers, but recently we don't have special needs students in the classroom because it's gonna be like we torturing them. It's gonna be like cruel to them, forcing them to follow the regular class while he or she needs a special needs. So our school don't have this. We are not inclusive school for
Okay.
that. We have a special school for that in here in my place. I hope that answer.
Thank you, Ibu.
Okay, so we will move to the. Oh, yeah. Yes.
I think Toastmasters has a branch in Makassar, Pak Lodi, but I don't know. Yes, it's an organization, international organization. ADD, ADHD, slow learners, uh,
Dyslexia.
autism syndrome. Yes.
Okay, thank you for the great explanation of your experience, Palodi. That is very amazing to hear your story. So we move to the next questions. I'm gonna answer the first question from Ibu Mul. So the question is, how the universal grammar affect our second language acquisitions. So I think universal grammar affect our second language by providing an innate framework that guides the language learning. According to the expert Noam Chomsky, that the universal grammar consists of a set of grammatical principles that shared by all human language. So for our context, the universal grammar might help in recognizing universal linguistic structures, but the challenge would maybe arise when the first language and the second language have a different parameter settings, such as the word order, verb inflections, or the synthetic structures. So basically, the universal grammar helps us to learn language, but for our first language and the second language. And but if the if the if the second language have a differs significantly from the our first language, it might be less helpful and learning becomes more adapting to the new rules. And the second one is, what is our opinion about the teaching grammar, not only fluency but also accuracy? As we already know that teaching grammar is essential because it supports both fluency and accuracy. So while the fluency help learner communicates effectively, the other hand, accuracy ensures that our message is clear and understandable. So in my opinion, a balanced approach is the best if we want to focus on the fluency. And I think the good method is a communicative grammar teaching, whereas grammar taught in the context rather than um, like the traditional way. I think that's all of my answer. Is there any addition from our member group?
Yes, Ade, I would like to add the information you share to Ibu to respond to Ibu Mulyati questions about the universal grammar by Noam Chomsky. The universal grammar, the idea is about the ability to learn a language. That means we are both with the pre-wired language. So have this SPK, subject, predicate, and object like that. So in English also has the has their own framework. So all human languages, not only English.
Sorry, Bu Nano, your voice is breaking, or is it my network?
No, no, no.
Oh,
It's bad connection. I didn't hear also.
You didn't
oh
hear
yeah,
anything.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, which one? My connections?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. How about now? Let me see. Let me once again go back with the universal grammar by Nam Chomsky, just to add more information from Ade. Uh, the core idea of the universal grammar is actually that all of us are born with the understanding of the fundamental principle of languages. So, according based on this theory, Noam Chomsky said that all human languages share a common underlying structure. So, this framework is there in our brain when we were birthed, and it's not entirely learned through exposure to a specific language. So um, we have these patterns in our mind, and then after that we coming up with this second language, so we compare that in our brain. When we expose to other language, um, because we already have this basic framework, make it easier for us to grasp the grammatical rules, because we already inherit this framework. It's like built on our mind. Say for instance, we have this subject predicate object in Bahasa Indonesia. So when we coming up with learned in language, we have these subject verbs or complements in English. So it's make it easier for us to grasp the idea. So it has a specific impact on our approach in language learning. That's from me. Thank you. Uh, I hope that answered the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Ibu Nano. So that's all of our question, Bumul. Is it clear for you?
Yeah, thank you so much for both of you. But let me respond the second question, because it's not clear from you, your perspective. It does mean that you are agree or disagree with the lecturer who just teaches, I mean, especially in spoken and written text, the fluently, but really, what is that? Doesn't focus to teach grammar. Nothing.
uh, Tabe Bukmul, you ask our team whether we agree with that kind of teacher teaching doesn't teach grammar, specifically didn't teach grammar, but as we know that it's only not on in grammar is not only fluency but also accuracy. Is that what?
Yes. Yeah. It may say like that. Your perspective about this lecturer.
Mm. Oh, okay. May I go first, Ade?
Yeah. Go
Uh,
on, Bumul, Bu Nano.
Regarding to the lecturers that didn't teach grammar, particularly didn't teach grammar in specific way, but the grammar knowledge is there in all of us. So when we already learned about that, since as Audi already explained, we learned it since early child at school in primary, and then just based on the memorizing, but that thing stays in our brain. So even we take for example, if even me myself didn't teach grammar specifically, but that grammar knowledge is still carry out wherever I go, wherever I teach, either it is about fluency or about the accuracy, it's coming along. So based one things that hinders our students to use the language is because of the grammar. So we have to deliver the grammar in a different way instead of go with the traditional one as Audi explained before. So whether agree or disagree, actually the English teacher basically when they don't teach the grammar specifically didn't teach the grammar, but the grammar knowledge it will come naturally with them. So that's what that's based on my experience. I don't teach grammar basically, but I teach English as a general. But but the grammar itself, when I teach the English, it come along. It come along when I teach the English in the classroom. So if we just agree or disagree, well, actually, being a lecturer, we should know grammar better than others, than our students, because we teaching fluency and accuracy. It is one whole package when we teach English. That's from my point of view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gunano. But I saw that John raising hand. Is there any addition you wanna give? John?
Okay, okay. I tried to give some additions. Um, Miss Mulyati asked about a grammar lecturer in maritime. They don't teach about grammar. And my perspective, my experience, maritime student, actually they need speaking much more than grammar. And you know that they need speaking much more grammar because when they work in abroad in other country, um, they will use speaking skill much more than grammar skill. Moreover, their major is engineer because um, I was in a course and I teach maritime student also, and we talk a lot about their need. They come to the course because they want speaking skill and about grammar, actually a little bit about grammar when they conduct the maritime test. And when I talk with them, when I saw their test, maritime test, actually they need just a basic grammar like part of speech and tenses. Maybe because of these reasons, so in their classroom, their lecturer focus on speaking skill first. It doesn't mean they don't need grammar, but based on what they need um, in their job. So in my perspective, they need much more speaking than grammar. Thank you so much. I give back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Kajon, for the great explanation of your story experience. So, Bumul, is there any addition for the answer from us?
First of all, thank you so much for Bro Johannes. I think it's clear.
Okay, I think that's all the questions. Thank you for the opportunity for today. I am as the moderator giving back to Pak Lodi.
Yes, that's right. Assessing vocabulary.
Group 7, the last group. Okay, Sarah Lodi, thank you. All right. Kak Jan, could you please share the screen? Oke, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good, good morning, everyone. And we are from the last groups, and we will present about assessing vocabulary. So, without any further ado, maybe we can start on the next slide, please. Okay, and our groups is the first one Evi Shafitri, the second one Muhammad Faris Bakir, and the last one is John Olak Lagodai. Next, please. Okay, for the first topic, we will bring by me. It's about the place of vocabulary in assessment. Next slide, please. So at introductions, at first glance, it may seem that assessing the vocabulary knowledge of second language learner is both necessary and reasonably straightforward. It is necessary in the sense that words are the basic building blocks of knowledge. The unit of meaning from which largest structure, such as sentence, paragraph, and whole text are forms. For native speaker, all of the most rapid growth occur in childhood. Vocabulary knowledge continues to develop naturally in adult life in response to new experience, inventions, concepts, social trends, and opportunity for learning. And for learners, on the other hand, acquisition of vocabulary is typically a more conscious and demanding process. Even at an advanced levels, learners are aware of limitations in their knowledge of second language. Next, please. Yeah, next, please. It's done, sorry. So this is an example. So we can see it sounds like preparations to full text. It's similar, but we just focus on this example. For the first one, we have how to say menyediakan vocabulary beberapa seperti misalkan multiple choice like this. The principle was read blah 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 blah, and we give how to say a multiple choice. And the second one is about completions, writing missing word. It's also sometimes yeah I in my experience give this task like how far they know about the vocabulary after they memorize the some word or several words, and also like this translations, like they work at the meal what the meaning of the meal itself, and it's depend on the paragraph. It seems like TOEFL, yeah, in a chapter reading chapter. Next slide, please. So this is the another example, matching. Uh, in my also experience, after I how to say give how to say I give the vocabulary, and then I give also like matching. and what does the word is. For example, like accurate. What is accurate? Is it not friendly or maybe not changing, careful and exact? They can, how to say, um, put the right line ya, sesuai dengan definisinya. Next slide please. So we move to recent trends in language testing. However, scholars in the field of language testing have a rather different perspective on vocabulary test items in the conventional kind, such as items fit neatly into what language. Let's just call the discrete point approach to tasking. This involves designing tests to assess whether learners have knowledge of particular structural element of the language, word meaning, word forms, sentence patterns, sound contrast, and so on. Next, please. Okay, so this is the number criticism can be met discrete point vocabulary test. Actually, they five the criticism of vocabulary test, but I only put three of five because to make easier to understand. The first one, it's about difficult to make any general statement about learners' vocabulary on the basis of scores in such a test. If someone gets 20 items correct out of 30, what does that say about the adequacy of the learner vocabulary knowledge? So in my experience, 20 I also put 30 questions, and there is several students, the higher point have 20 answer correct out of 30, and I think this is not how to say, they have to increase more than, like, maybe they have to write 25 or 27. It's because it's about vocabulary, so the vocabulary, it's so important to increase our English skill, student skill. uh, like the vocabulary also useful for maybe learn the grammar, learn the speaking, and without any vocabulary, they can't speak English. Even like they have a perfect score in grammar, they have perfect in speaking, we can't conclude that they have a good English skill. So I think that is the first point. And the second point is about learning need to show that they can use word appropriately in their own speech and writing, rather than demonstrating that they understand what a word can mean. To put in another way, the standard discrete point items test receptive but not productive competence. The third one, in normal language use, words do not occur by themselves or in isolated sentence, but as integrated elements of whole text and discourse. They belong in specific conversations, jokes, stories, letters, textbook, legal proceeding, newspaper, advertising, and so on. And the way that we interpret words is significantly influenced by the context which it occurs. Next slide, please. So we move to the three dimensions of vocabulary test. Next slide, please. Okay, so the first one is discrete embedded. The first dimension focuses on construct, which underline the assessment instrument. In language testing, the term construct refers to the mental attribute or ability that a task is designed to measure. In the case of a traditional vocabulary test, the construct can usually be labeled as vocabulary knowledge of some kind. The practical significance of defining this construct is that it allows us to clarify the meaning of the test result. And normally we want to interpret the scores on vocabulary tests as a measure of some aspect of the learner's vocabulary knowledge, such as their progress in learning words from the last several units in the course book, their ability to supply the derived forms of best word like um, scientist, scientific from science. So they have to make different between, yeah, like this scientist, scientific, and science. They have to understand between what the different the meaning of the word. Is it same definitions or is it different definitions? So, or they still inferring the meaning of unknown words in the reading passage. So that is the discrete embedded. Next slide, please. Okay, the next one it's about selective comprehensive. The second dimension concern the range of vocabulary to be included in the assessment. A conventional vocabulary test is based on a set of target words selected by the test writer, and the test takers are assessed according to how well they demonstrate their knowledge of the meaning of use of those words. This is what called a selective vocabulary measure. The target words may either be selected as individual words and then incorporate into separate text items, or alternatively, test writers first choose a suitable text and then uses certain word from it as the basis for the vocabulary assessment. So on the other hand, a comprehensive measure takes account of all the vocabulary content of the spoken or written text. Like for example, let us take a speaking test in which the learner are rated on various criteria, including their range of expressions. So this case, the raters are not listening for particular words or expressions, but in the principle are forming a judgment of the quality of the takers overall vocabulary use. Similarly, okay, so comprehensive measure can also be applied to the input material for reading or listening test. Next slide, please. And the last one, it's about context independent and context dependent. So traditionally, contextualizations has meant that word is presented to test takers in a sentence rather than as an isolated element. From a contemporary perspective, it is necessary to broaden the notions of context to include whole text and more generally discourse. In addition, so we need to recognize that contextualizations is more than just a matter of the way in which vocabulary is presented. The key questions is to what extent the test takers are being assessed on the basis of their ability to engage with the context provided in the test. In other words, do they have to make use contextual informations in order to give the appropriate response to the task, or can they just respond as if the words were in isolations? So next slide, please. Oh, okay. So this is the last illustrated. Sorry. So this is the last illustrated. An example, yeah. You can see that the point about this test item is that all four options are possible meaning of the word consume. It sounds like, yeah, like I told before, it sounds like TOEFL reading, yeah, reading TOEFL, that they underline the what does the word meaning of consume, for example, and and the multiple choice are possibility have right answer, But what the exactly the answer? It's depend on the paragraph. It depend on the sentence. So that's the illustrated of how to say context independent and dependent. It's depend on the, is it depend on the sentence, or is it independent from the paragraph? Next slide, please. This is hold up. Okay, so I think we ini Pak Kak Jon ya.
My part.
Okay, so I think that's all for my chapter, and I will give to Mr. John for the next chapter. I think Kak John, time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Now my part, I try to explain about the design of discrete vocabulary test. The first about introductions. Discrete test must commonly focus on vocabulary knowledge, whether the test taker know the meaning or use of a selected set of content words in the target language. Okay, the design has a three uh, test proposed. The first for researchers, and the second making decisions about learner, and the third making decisions about learning program. For researchers, second language vocabulary, researchers have needed assessment instrument for studies, how broad and deep learner vocabulary knowledge is, how effective different method of systematic vocabulary learning, how incidental learning occurs through reading and listening activities, whether and how learner can infer the meanings of unknown word encounter in context, and how learner deal with gaps in their vocabulary vocabulary knowledge. And the second, making decisions about learner. Um, in placement test, before we provide the class, we have to test the learner vocabulary test, and we will know their basic vocabulary, and we can choose which vocabulary book suitable for teach them, and which class vocabulary class suitable for the learner. And about making decisions about learning programs, um, we we will know which we we can should we continue the program or we have to change the program by the test. And next, um, for more detail, you can see in the screen, second language vocabulary research have needed assessment instrument for study. There are several instruments, how broad, how effective, how incidental, and how learners deal with gaps their vocabulary knowledge, as I explained before. And next, language teacher and tester who employ tests for making decisions about learner have different focus. They use tests for purposes such as placement, diagnosis, measuring progress or achievement, and assessing proficiency. Example, the vocabulary sections of placement test battery can be designed to estimate how many high-frequency words the learner already know. A progress test assess how well students have learned the word presented in the unit they have recently studied in the course book. The purpose can be essentially a diagnostic one for teacher to identify words that require some further attentions in class. And the last, in an achievement test, one sections may be designed to assess how well the learner have mastered a vocabulary skill that they have been taught. And the third use of the test is for making decisions about language program or program evaluations. As it is generally known, Alderson and Barretta 1992, Lynch 1996, vocabulary tests may be used discreetly to judge the effectiveness of a vocabulary learning program or as an embedded measure in evaluations of language education program with broader objectives. Use of the test for this purpose has some of the characteristics of research, in that the study should be well designed to yield reliable and valid conclusions. But the difference is that program evaluations is often missioned by external funding agency, and there is usually practical decision to be made. Should the program continue to be funded? Does it need to be changed? Should it be adopted on a wider scale? The next characteristic of the test input. The first, selections of the target words. One obvious questions that arise in the design of selective vocabulary test is how to choose the target words. First, it is necessary to make general point about the frequency distributions of words in English and other language for that matter. The second, presentations of words. Once target words have been selected, there is often decisions to be made as to whether they should be presented to the test taker in isolations or in some form of context. Next, about characteristic of the expected response. Self-report versus variable response. In some testing situations, it is appropriate to ask the learner to assess their own lexical knowledge. And the second, monolingual versus bilingual testing. In monolingual assessment, vocabulary is evaluated in a single language, focusing on breadth, range of the words known, and depth, understanding of meanings and context. Bilingual vocabulary testing, however, must consider the proficiency and knowledge of the words in both languages, accounting for potential cross-linguistic influence, language dominance, and code switching. And the last about practical example. And here some example, practical example in classroom progress tests, such as matching items, complacency item, sentence writing items, and generic test item. But for testing depth in vocabulary knowledge, we can use the word associate test. Okay, thank you so much. This is my part, and this is the end of my part. And for the next, we'll present it by our sister F. Fisher. The screen is yours.
Okay, thanks for the chance. Okay, so this my part is comprehensive measure of vocabulary. So, comprehensive, excuse me, next slide, please.
Okay, so comprehensive measures of vocabulary assess various aspects of a learner's vocabulary proficiency beyond just word count. And these measures are particularly useful when vocabulary is a part of a larger construct, such as communicative competence in speaking, academic writing, or listening comprehension. So these methods can be applied within a broader assessment or used independently to focus specifically on vocabulary knowledge. For example, studies using lexical statistic on learner composition may focus on productive vocabulary knowledge without evaluating overall writing abilities. Effective vocabulary is effective vocabulary assessment requires considering factors like depth and ability to use vocabulary approximately in a various contexts. Comprehensive measures are particularly suitable for assessment procedure in which vocabulary is embedded as one component of the measurement of a larger construct, such as communicative competence in speaking, academic writing, and listening comprehension. So, assessing vocabulary knowledge require comprehensive measures that go beyond simply counting words. There are various aspects of vocabulary proficiency influence comprehension, particularly in reading and listening text. Next slide, please. Okay, the first one is vocabulary size. The number of words a learner knows. Larger vocabulary size generally improve comprehension. Vocabulary size refers to the number of words learner knows and understanding in language. The larger a person's vocabulary, the better their comprehension of both written and spoken text. Improve word recognition learners with a larger vocabulary can recognize word more quickly in text or conversation, making comprehension easier and facilitates contextual guessing. When someone has a broader vocabulary, they can more easily guess the meaning of unfamiliar word based on other words in the sentence or paragraph. Improve reading fluency by recognizing more words automatically. Learners can read faster and understand the material without frequently stopping to look up words. Support listening comprehension in spoken communication. The more words a person know, the easier is for them to understand conversation without struggling to interpret the meaning of each word. Next slide, please. Okay. Next is about vocabulary depth. So the extent of understanding word meanings, including synonyms, collocations, and usage in different contexts. Vocabulary depth refers to the extent of understanding a word meanings and use, including its morphology, semantics, and syntax roles. It involves knowing a word various meaning, and as well as a different form such as how the word happy and change to happiness or unhappy. The ability to understand word in isolation, regardless of the context in which they were first encountered, is a key aspect of vocabulary depth. And it's also emphasized how attitudes such as sarcasm or can affect word meaning. And according outlets in 2006 demonstrate that vocabulary breadth and depth impact literary skill differently. While breadth improves, uniquely predict reading comprehension. So to measure vocabulary depth, various stats focus on semantic, morphological, and syntactic knowledge. Semantic knowledge is assessed through synonym tasks, polysemy tasks, and word definition tasks, which probe how well someone understands a word meaning in a various contexts. And about morphological awareness is a test by task where participants manipulate words by adding or removing affixes. Example, changing drive to driver. And about morphological awareness, help in understanding how words, role, or meaning can change with different affixes. Next slide, please. Okay, next is about lexical density. So, the variety of words used in text, which affect both comprehension and the ability to express idea effectively. The proportion of content word in a text, higher lexical density can make a text more challenging to understand, especially in listening tasks. Lexical density is a concept used in computational linguistics to assess the complexity of language, both even is a written or spoken. It is calculated by measuring the ratio of content words, we call it lexical units, to functional words in a composition. An individual lexical density can change based on the factors such as age, education, communication style, and health condition. It is generally influenced by a person, first language, and inherent structure of the language. And lexical density affect readability of a composition, influencing how easily it can be understood by readers or listener. And lexical density is used in discourse analysis as a descriptive measure and varies across different register and genres. And in lexical density, there are several methods proposed to compute lexical density in any given composition or any corpus. Next slide, please. Okay, the fourth is lexical frequency. So, the comments of words in language, frequent words are easier to recognize and process, while rare words increase difficulty. Once the target vocabulary is identified, the next challenge, determining what aspect of vocabulary knowledge should be assessed. And although frameworks like, according to expert Richard, provide useful guidelines, and they do not fully explain how the various components of vocabulary knowledge relate to each other or how to effectively measure them. To truly assess vocabulary proficiency, it is important to combine both micro level or and macro level. Further research and develop of practical and valid measure are needed to improve how we assess vocabulary knowledge. The lexical frequency profile, or we can call it LFP, developed by Lover and Nations, over a new measure that address the limitation of traditional lexical statistics. It calculates the percentage of word familiars in learners' composition based on their relative frequency in the language, categorizing words into frequency bands. However, the LFP is still affected by the amount written by different learners, and comparing it with other single measure can be cumbersome. And according to Lover, subsequent research suggested that the percentage of work beyond the first 2000 were over a more straightforward indication of vocabulary progress over time. And this beyond 2000 measure is considered an alternative way of calculating lexical complication, as the increase in words beyond the 2000 word level reduce the proportion of high frequency word in a profile. So maybe when we know or heard about vocabulary, maybe is heard so simple, but another side, when we learn about vocabulary, is a very complicated to understand for all the items in a vocabulary itself. So I think that's enough in my part. I give back to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for Evi Sapitri. And I think that's all for our presentations. Maybe if you guys have any questions, Please raise your hand and yeah. Okay. Kak Aima Fatimah, please unmute your voice and ask the questions.
Okay, thank you very much for the chance given to me. Am I audible?
Yes, you're
Yes.
audible.
Okay, thank you. Uh, as we know that teaching vocabulary in a big city and in a rural area is really different. So, in your group perspective, how to address the students' difficulties in vocabulary, even if we already taught them the correct answer, but the students still do the same mistakes again and again. While in other side, there is a curriculum demands that we should implement it in a school like that. Do you get it,
So you ask about the address the students which
students?
have same mistake
Yes. While
after.
in other side there is a curriculum demands that we should implement it in a school.
Okay, okay, thank you. Maybe Miss Effie Shafetri or Kak John want to share answer the question, or we have to discuss first. Okay, give us the time, please.
Mr. Waris, maybe it will be better if we collect all the questions and then we will answer at the last.
Oh, okay, okay, thank you. Sorry. And maybe for the next, we skip first, yeah. Miss Aima, maybe the last part. Okay. Kak Ilmi, please. Kak Ilmi apa Bu Muli
Yes,
dulu?
let me.
Oke, oke.
Let's
Kak Ilmi.
first, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to ask Group 7 about the material that have presented. So, um, in the comprehensive measure of vocabulary on the last slide,
Mention
wait,
vocabulary, okay.
okay, comprehensive measure of vocabulary on the last slide, it is explained that vocabulary assessment not only measure the number of words known or vocabulary size, but also the depth of understanding of their meanings and usage in different contexts or vocabulary depth. So vocabulary depth uh, is often um, considered more important for reading comprehension than simply knowing a large number of words. Uh, so my question is, why does a comprehensive measure of vocabulary place more emphasis on vocabulary depth than vocabulary size in reading comprehension? Did you get it?
For Miss Evi Shafitri, did you get the point? Because this is your part.
Okay, I
Did
get the
you get
point.
it?
Okay, let me make sure. So, your question is focus on the about vocabulary size and vocabulary depth.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
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 Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And for the third question, please, Ibu Mulyati Rabani.
Yeah, thank you so much for group 7. Um, my understanding about assessment of vocabulary uh, refers to the method is used to assess the students' understanding about vocabulary. I just want to require you to share perhaps one of your some methods using to assess your students' understanding about vocabulary, particularly in depth of vocabulary knowledge.
In depth of vocabulary knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Is it clear?
Depth vocabulary kayaknya Miss F ya.
Whatever you are, just share your experience.
Oh, experience. Okay, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, so give me a moment for prepare the question, please. Okay, so for a question from Miss Ilmi, I think the answer will be answered by Miss Effie.
Okay. Okay. About the questions from my sis Ilmi, if I doesn't mistake, the question is why does comprehensive measure vocabulary place more emphasis on vocabulary depth than vocabulary size in reading comprehension? So, a comprehensive measure of vocabulary place more emphasis on vocabulary depth than vocabulary size in reading comprehension, because depth reflect richer understanding of words, their meaning, and their relationship. In which is more crucial for understanding complex texts. Example, the word bank can mean a financial institution or the side of a river. Without depth and vocabulary knowledge, reader may misinterpret sentence. So maybe uh, someone will miscom or misinterpret about the bank, about the financial institution, or bank is the side of the river. So we call it a vocabulary depth and hence meaning construction. Knowing a word definition is usable, but understanding multiple meanings, nuance, connotation, and collocation, it means how words combine with others and is essential for interpreting text accurately. I think that's all. I think it's about a comprehension measure. And the second, you mentioned about the um, CMV, or we call it comprehensive measure of vocabulary. My answer is yes, it makes sense because emphasize vocabulary depth more than vocabulary size in reading comprehension, as I said before, because vocabulary depth determines the understanding of the meaning in various contexts. The reason why I say it makes sense because understanding meaning is more than just recognizing word vocabulary size only shows how many words are noun. But if you don't understand the meaning in a very situation, you can still misunderstand. Another example, the word like can mean like or not serious. And if you only know the one meaning, you can be confused in a different sentence. So it's about the understanding and the meaning is more than just recognizing word itself. Okay, I think that's it. I give it to Sis Elmi. Oh, to moderator. Sorry. Excuse me.
Okay, so is it done, Miss Effie?
Yeah, I'm done. See you
Okay,
later.
so how about Miss Ilmi?
Okay, thanks for your answer. Is it clear? But I just wanted to confirm so that vocabulary depth is crucial for reading comprehension, but extend beyond word count to understanding meaning and usage. Maybe it just to making it easier to interpret the complex text. Is it correct? Is it right?
Sorry.
Is it right, Miss Ashley?
Oh yeah.
It's just
Yes, as
to
I
make it easier to interpret the complex text.
yes, as I said, if you mentions about a comprehensive measure of vocabulary or CMV, we must focus that vocabulary depth and vocabulary size comprehensive because depth and reflect is a richer understanding of word, their meaning, and the relationship. It's maybe more crucial for understanding complex text. We just need more understanding to the difference about the vocabulary depth and vocabulary size itself.
Oh, okay, I got it. Thanks for your great explanation.
Okay, so thank you very much for Miss Ilmi. And the next questions will answer by sharing, yeah, by Miss Mr. John, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I tried to answer Miss Muli questions about um, our method based on our experience. Um, this my experience, and I I didn't have I mean I didn't teach English in formal educations, but I ever I was in a course, and actually our course focus on speaking skill, but we have a materials. We provide some subject, and one of them is vocabulary. And when we do assessing vocabulary, um, in the simple context, we just ask the words. Example, I ask my member come to me and I mention in Indonesia and they answer in English, or I mention in English and they answer in Indonesia. The simple one. But when I want to do that assessment about vocabulary, um, I will ask one by one, come to me and tell a story based on uh, 20 vocabulary. I mean, I give 20 vocabulary, and you have to speak. You have to tell based on this vocabulary, and we'll count how many vocabulary do you use in your story, do you use in your speaking, and how suitable you make the sentence in your story based on this vocabulary. And that's vocabulary. We have two kinds of vocabulary: common vocabulary and also uh, uncommon vocabulary, like a crime. But um, for example, like that, the simple one is you mentions the vocabulary in English and your member answer in Indonesia. But for that, one of assessment, you ask the member to make a story based on vocabulary you give. 20 vocabulary, uh, 30 vocabulary, 50 vocabulary, and you count how many vocabulary they use in their speech, and how suitable they use vocabulary to make the sentence, to make a good story. Okay, thank you. I give back to moderator.
Okay, so thank you very much. And maybe if you have guys any experience for teaching vocabulary experience, or Miss Mulyati, did you want to also share your experience about teaching vocabulary so we can
All right. Thank you so much. Uh, I will share my experience one of my experiences teaching vocabulary to the student. I prepare uh, a short story, but it's a moral story, and then I will ask them to identify the new vocabulary that they know, that they found out from the story, the passage, and then uh, I ask them to uh, find the meaning of the vocabulary, and then their part of speech, is it a verb or adjective, and so on. And after that, I will make a quiz for them uh, about the vocabulary. And after that, I will ask them to use those vocabulary in a sentence, just like that.
Okay, so thank you very much for sharing. And it's about to also to answer the Miss Aima questions. He asked about how to say why the students like in village and the city have different vocabulary. Uh, in the other hand, the curriculum is demand to menyamakan gitu loh. Kenapa bisa sama kurikulumnya tapi hasilnya berbeda? So in my also I'm sharing experience. Uh, I also the teachers, the mentor of English camp, and are invited by several organizations to how to say sharing about English skill, especially for vocabulary. When 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I invited by Jeneponto, how to say, students English students from Jeneponto. Jadi sekumpulan mahasiswa yang berasal dari Jeneponto. They invite my organizations and to sharing about English, especially vocabulary. And I ask about what the English of what in English of, for example, like school, and they did sekolah. They didn't know what in English. And besides, when I teach or being guru kontrak or guru sementara, even I said apa bahasa Inggrisnya sekolah, they feel like, oh, it's totally bored. It's too easy, for example, too easy to how to say to translate it into English. Can you give more new vocabulary? So based on my experience, saya how to say menganalisa bahwa it's also depend on what teacher share, and also what the teacher background. Even like I saw that I'm not how to say, saya tidak bermaksud untuk merendahkan, but based on my saya perhatikan juga guru-guru yang di Jeneponto, for example, they didn't have they kurang haven't experience about like habits to speak English. They less experience about even like uh, lingkungan yang terbatas dibanding dengan the teachers in big city like Makassar. So, uh, for example, like the teacher from Makassar, they have sounds like in when they were join English organizations, they have many experience to share with other, for example, and they have new knowledge from the new friends, for example, and the teacher from the how to say from in desa-desa itu sangat terbatas lingkungannya. That's why hasil yang diajarkan itu berbeda-beda karena balik lagi dari background gurunya atau lingkungannya. It's depend on the teacher itself. So I think the for that problems, I think students who learn in big city like Makassar, and then after that they can teach the other students who can't take a school in Makassar. They can back to the village and then teach what they got in the big city, for example. I think, did you get my point, Miss Aima?
Yes, I get it. Okay, just now you say that one of main points why the students have difficulties in vocabulary is about the teacher background education. I think if we are talking about the teacher background education, some of the teacher in Jeneponte especially have great background education because they have GR gelar ini professional teacher like that.
Oh, but
Yes,
okay, okay. Let's continue.
so maybe is there any uh, another strategies that the teacher should be apply in the school or in the classroom to make the students more understand about vocabulary, a simple vocabulary maybe.
Okay, so thank you very much. Maybe Kak John atau Kak Evi.
Okay, okay. I will try to give some comment about this question, about AIMA questions. Um, Student make a same mistake, make a same mistake as vocabulary uh, mistake. I mean, in my experience, I noticed two vocabulary that the student always ask every, almost every day they ask about this, and every period when the new member come, they will ask about two vocabularies. These vocabulary are belum and sedang. Do you know that? They always ask, sir, how to say in English sedang, how to say in English belum. And we always explain because tomorrow they ask again. And the day after tomorrow they ask again because I try to understand about this case. My perspective, maybe they always ask because in their mindset, vocabulary is a word that we have to memorize. But when we find out vocabulary about sedang, of course, we have to memorize about the pattern. And also, when we look for the vocabulary belum, we have to memorize about the pattern. And the student, sometimes they don't want to memorize the pattern because easy to ask directly, but they don't want to memorize the pattern. And about, we have a same curriculum, but we have a different uh, progress, we have a different result. Is based on strategy, based on method, based on technique that teacher use in teaching. So if you have a good teacher with good background, but the method, the strategy is not suitable to you, not suitable for you, it will impact your result. But if you have a good teacher and the method that the teacher used to teach you is suitable for you, I believe that you will get the good impact. You will get the good result. Thank you. Uh, that's from me. Maybe Miss Fisher, you want to give additions?
Yeah.
I give to moderator.
So please, Miss Evi, to add more.
Okay. Based on my experience, and for me, in my opinion, it's not the only depend on the teacher because
Based on my experience, environment and daily life in cities, people often interact with technology. So that's why there are a very um significant difference why students in the city and the student in the village have a different knowledge about the vocabulary. Even it's about the technology, modern transportation, and business. So the vocabulary is more related to about technology, I think. And as I said about a daily life in cities and village, it's very totally different. Even about the agriculture and about the social interaction, mutual cooperation, petrol fees, and so on. It is make a different why students in the city and student in the village have a different knowledge about the vocabulary itself. And about the technology, the second reason, it must be about the access to education and media. So it's not just about the teacher, as Miss Ima said. A lot of teacher in Jeneponto have a new title, as you said, GR, and it's about access to education and media. In the cities, access to education is wider, so including quality school courses, the internet, and the latest of book. So the vocabulary master is wider, including academic terms and foreign language in foreign languages. And in a village, access to education and media can be more limited because vocabulary tends to be more vocabulary tends to be more related to everyday life and local culture. And about technology, a second about access, education, and media, and the third reason, I think it's about social interaction and mobility. If we live in our daily life in city, maybe when we go outside and meet someone, maybe when I go to campus and then I meet my friends and then I speak in English, I think it's um, how to say, terbiasa, how to say terbiasa. And then when I in the village in Jeneponto itself, uh, okay, sorry, it's used to. So when I was in the village, when I try to speak in English or maybe teach someone about the vocabulary, uh, the people that I talk to say, "I saw." How to say so? Okay. Yeah, how to say so? You're so itulah. So about the, I think yeah. So I think there are three reasons why there are differently students' knowledge about vocabulary in the city and about the college. The first is about technology, access access to education and media, and the third is about social interaction and mobility. I think that's all.
Okay, so thank you very much for Effie sharing. And I think it's very important about technology, yeah, like how maybe a song, for example, or a movie to increase the new vocabulary in translate, yeah, in film, for example. It's also very important. And oh yeah, Palodi, please, do you want to share? Okay, so I think it's such a good explanation from Mr. Lodi. And we have 7 minutes to end the meeting. And I would like to ask also about Mr. Lodi experience. As Pak John said that if we have a good, as a, we have good teacher, but have a wrong method, for example. My question is there any teachers, is there any good teachers have uh, wrong method to to teach about vocabulary, apa vocabulary assessment, Mr. Lodi or Kak Jun maybe? Saya juga bingung, makanya saya mau. Okay, okay. Thank you for the explanations, Falodi. Maybe Kak John want to comment.
Um, I agree with Pak Lodi. Totally agree. It's not wrong, but we don't implement it what we got from training or what we got from our educations before. And um, I bring another perspective. My experience, actually, this is a complicated case about the result. About the result, we can blame the student or we can blame the teacher. But as Mr. Lode explained before, I believe the teacher will do the good job if they have a good supervisor. So in my experience as a teacher uh, in land in remote area, South Papua, we can blame the teacher. I say that I am a teacher and I can blame the teacher. We should um, what is that? We should honest. Not all teacher do their job very well. In Papua, in South Papua, uh, it is a danger when the teacher, okay, when the teacher think about himself. I ever meet a teacher and they say like this: don't think about your student. Now, time to teach about your career. And I believe this is a danger, very danger. Okay, when you think only about your career, you forgot about your student, and the result, the impact for the student is very danger. Okay, and but back to our topic. Uh, all method, all strategies is a rich. I mean, it's a good, very well method, very well strategy, but not all suitable for your student. I just say that not all methods suitable for your student. So you can put your method based on your student. So knowing about our student is very well before we are going to implement it our method, our strategy, our technique. Uh, that's enough for me. Thank you so much. I give back to you, moderator.
Okay, so thank you very much for explanation from Kak John and Mr. Lodi, and we have enough time, guys, and I think that's all our presentations, and I give back to Pak Lodi. Pak Lodi, please. Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lodi. Have a nice day.